Today I'm going to talk to you about the framing square, a handy tool every timber framer should have. They come in all sizes. This one is thick aluminum. It's called a Fat Boy. I bought it at Home Depot. This one's a little smaller, has an 1.5-inch body and a 1-inch tongue. Those are the names of the two parts of a framing square. If you remember me standing here holding it, sticking out my tongue, you will remember that this is the tongue, this is the body. They sometimes come painted with numbers on it. These numbers can fade and be very hard to read. The numbers on this framing square are etched in, and because it's aluminum and they're etched in, it's lasted me a long time, at least 10 years. It's just as good as the day I bought it. There are parts to the framing square, as I mentioned, the body and the tongue. When you hold the framing square in this position with the tongue to your right, this is the front of the framing square. When you hold the framing square with the tongue to your left, this is the back of your framing square. The corner where the tongue and the body meet is called the heel. There's the outer heel and the inner heel. On a very good framing square, on the back side, there will be a row of numbers. These are the brace layout dimensions. For example, if you have a 36-inch brace layout, you'll see 36 over 36, and beside that is the number 50 and 9/1. That's 50 inches, .91. A really good old framing square right in the corner of the framing square would be a 100th scale. You could then take your dividers and set it to .91 on the 100th scale and set out your dimension. Nowadays, we have the pocket calculator. When you take a pocket calculator and you enter in .91 and you want to know that in 1/16 of an inch in order to use your tape measure, you multiply that times 16 equals. The readout says 14.56, so that's 14.56 sixteenths. So we round up. The 6 rounds up to 5 to .6. .6 rounds up to 14 to 15. So the layout for a 36-inch brace, 50 and 50.91 would be 50 inches and 15/16. We can now lay out our brace for our frame. One of the tools you've asked me to show you is a hook ruler. It's called a hook ruler simply because it has a hook on the end. And you use that to hook onto the side of a timber and get an accurate measurement. This hook ruler I bought from Woodcraft many years ago has 64ths on one side and 32nds on the other. It has millimeters on the back. I paid $32 for it many years ago. I bought it because someone suggested it was a good tool to have and to use. I very rarely use it at all. But for those of you who want a good ruler, I would highly recommend this ruler. You asked me to talk to you about the tape measure. This is a new tape measure of Stanley Level-Lock, 30 foot, that I like very much. And we don't use the very end of the tape measure because the end flexes in and out. It flexes in and out so that when you want to take a measurement from the inside, it reads accurately. When you want to take a measure from the outside, it reads accurately. But because it's movable, it is somewhat inaccurate. When we do any layout, we always start at the dimension 10. It's easy to add 10 to any number on your plan and get the correct layout. As far as dimensions on a plan go, I like to take whatever the dimension is on the plan, if it's in feet and inches, and convert that to inches. For example, if I had a plan and it said 7 feet 9 inches, I would write right on the plan the total of those two, which would be 84 plus 9, or 93. Then whenever I do any layout, I would do 93 plus my 10 gives me 103, and I would lay out using those dimensions. Also, you've requested me to explain what the little diamond is at the 19 mark. And then when you look down the tape, you'll see more of them along the tape. The diamond is used to lay out trusses and roof trusses. It gives you 5 equal spaces to an 8-foot span. It's a little less than 16 inches on center. A little more than 16 inches on center, and a little less than 2 foot on center. It's a way to divide up the space evenly for your nailing pattern, for nailing off decking over your floor joists or your floor trusses or your roof trusses. Another handy item for the framing square is the stair buttons. These are little brass buttons that we attach to the framing square in order to lay out stair risers and treads. They're also used to lay out rafters. I recently had to lay out some rafters on a 10-12 pitch. To lay out rafters on a 10-12 pitch, you set your stair button on 10 with beyond the 10, so you have a good clear 10 inches from the button to your heel, and on the 12. You can now lay out your run and your rise for making your seat cuts and your plumb cuts for your rafter tail. I may demonstrate that in a few minutes. One of the other tools you've asked me to talk about is the Al Bornman layout template. This is an Al Bornman layout template, commonly called a Big Al. In a tour of Jack Sobin's workshop, I saw a similar tool hanging on the wall, but it only had 2 slots and it was only about this long. This is a picture of Jack with the first Al. And I said to Jack, "Oh, you have a little Al." And Jack explained to me that that was the first one that Al Bornman made. And they tested it and found it worked fine, but they wanted more slots and a longer piece. So Al, being a machinist, went back to his shop and created this layout template, and because it had more slots and it was longer, it was bigger, and it got the nickname of a Big Al. I believe that's the origin of the name. The way it works is on one side we have labels for the slots from 1.5 inches, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the outside edge is 9. If you flip it over, there's a different set of numbers from 2, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, 7.5, 8.5, and 9.5. The reason why they're different is that they're a different thickness fences. Here's another view of the Big Al. Here are the labels with the 1/2 inches on this side, the labels with the full inches on this side, and here shows the fence thickness on each end. This I thought was aluminum, but it may be metal, steel. I've had this one 10 years or more. Hasn't worn out. You can drop it and it doesn't get out of adjustment. It doesn't rust, and it's a very useful tool for a lot of things, and I will demonstrate some of those later.